The problem that we're going to look at first is 796. You were asked in the directions to complete the chart below. And in order to complete the chart, we needed to look at the algebraic expression. For the last few times that we worked on the math tables, when we have the letter x, it's our variable. So we start by writing pick a number. And when I have a number next to the variable, that tells me two things. It tells me how many of the x or the variable I have. It also tells me that I'm multiplying the coefficient, that would be the number 6, times whatever the value for x is. My step would be multiply by 6. Now, yesterday, when we were talking about the algebraic expressions and the pictures of the tiles, I asked you to look at the box above or the previous expression or the previous step to try and figure out what the change was. And when we look at this, we see in the box above, we just have a 6x. Down here, I have add 24. And that is exactly what I'm going to write in my direction, add 24. Then I look to see how it changes in my next box. And when I'm comparing these two numbers, I've got a 24 and an 18. I can subtract or I can count up. And in either case, when I move from the 24 to the 18, I will say subtract 6. And again, I'm going to look at this expression, compare it to the next one. Instead of having 6 x's like I do right here, I am now down to only 1 x. Instead of having 18, I have only 3. Now we might think, oh, well, if we just subtract from 18, I can get down to 3. And if I do that, 18, I'd have to subtract 15 from that to get to 3. And if I do 6 subtract 15, I don't get to x. I also need to remember that when I have 6x, it's a multiplication problem. So I'm going to try to do the inverse or the opposite. If I do 6x divided by 6, I get just x by itself. And if I do 18 divided by 3, I get, oops, if I do 18 divided by 6, I get 3. So we are going to write our step in here as divide by 6. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look and see what happened that's different. It looks like my variable, my x, is gone. And if I go back up to the top here, x was my original number. So when I'm doing my direction for here, I'm going to write down subtract original number. And I'm going to do just one trial because I'm hoping that you did your own trials, but I'm going to show you that I can make this work as best as I can, and you probably made it work really super well. I think we're going to use the number 9 for this problem. 9 times 6 equals 54. 54, add 24, I get 78. 78 subtract 6 is 72. 72 divided by 6 equals 12. And 12 subtract 9 equals 3. I'm going to go back in and circle the answers for each of the steps so you can see the most important part of that trial, number 1. And if you did not get trial number 2 done, please go ahead and do that. Pause the tape and then come back when you have finished trial number 2. Looking at the next problem though, we've got a statement that says we are going to translate each of these situations into a variable expression, such as those found in a magic number chart. Each one of these is separate. So I'm going to focus only on letter A, and it says pick a number and multiply by 7. Now you might think that this would work, and that is okay. But usually when we get into more complicated math, or when we get into math a little bit further on into the end of 6th grade and 7th grade, we are going to write pick a number and multiply by 7 like this. Because that tells me, the 7 tells me how many x's I have. And this is called the coefficient, and that's still called the variable. Pick a number and divide by 8. For this one, again, pick a number and divide by 8, or I can write it like a fraction, because a fraction is a miniature division problem. Letter C, pick a number and reduce it. Reduce it means I subtract 10, and really there's only one way to write that. And then pick a number. So we're going to go back to our variable. Our favorite variable is x today. Add 2, and then multiply by 5. Now, this is kind of tricky here. I want to make sure that I do this in the order that it's written. So I'm going to make sure that I put parentheses around the pick a number and add 2, because with order of operations, multiplication should come before addition, and we want to make sure that we are doing the problem the way that the situation or the directions tell us. All right, when you're done, please make sure that you are ready to go on to our next lesson, which would be lesson 733.